How's it going, YouTube? In fact, how's it going, everyone? Because I want this to go everywhere, and I'm pretty sure this might start a little social wildfire, and you know what? Good. This video is to address my feelings, my opinions, my experiences, and how I feel about this article posted by The Times called "What Happens to #MeToo When a Feminist is the Accused." And it is a story that is written by a Zoe Greenberg. And it's revolving and regarding an ex-graduate student of NYU, who is accusing one of their old professors at NYU for assaulting them sexually, seemingly abusing them emotionally as well. And this article feels pretty biased and is also just basically erasing any possibility that this can all be true, despite them putting in quotes from emails, hard evidence showing that it is very possible that this really happened. Now, I want to preface by saying I'm a queer trans man. I have been transitioning for just a few years. I'm almost 30, and I was living as female for a little over 26 years, and it was even a little bit longer than that. I probably didn't even start to pass as male until I was about 27 and a half. So that's where I'm coming from, as well as someone who, other than a little bit of assault, all of my assault, rape, sexual, emotional, physical, was all while I was living as female. Only one physical assault so far has come while I've been passing as male, and that was actually rather recent. So that's where I'm coming from when I'm commenting on all of this. Okay, even though you might just immediately dismiss me the second you see the title of this video, the second you look at me because you see a white guy. Yes, I'm a white guy. This is not a surprise outwardly to you visually, probably, but for me internally, yeah, it's kind of a fucking shocker. I didn't just, assume from a young age, like some might figure out within themselves, that I was not actually female. So when I started to transition, I pretty much figured it out then and started to immediately transition. So I want to be super, super, super clear that I was living as female in every possible way. I was raised as female. It was on my old birth certificate. That's true, the story. Okay? The reality is that, look, I have no way of knowing the full story of what really happened. Neither do you. Neither does the person who wrote this article. No one does, other than these two people, the professor and the victim. What I do know is that as part of someone who has gone through these experiences, as part of someone who's a feminist, as part of someone who proudly is part of a new generation of men who are true feminists, who have had this experience as female and who are coming in to try to open up the platform further for women to speak up, I'm so conflicted and distraught by this. You just took, if you are someone who feels that you can just dismiss what happened to this victim, you are a part of the problem. I don't care what your identity is. You don't get to say that someone's experience was not their experience and then say, oh wait, you don't get to say that my experience is bullshit just because I'm female. No, you don't get to do that. Okay? Why? Because anybody and everyone can get assaulted and raped and abused. It's not just gender and sex specific. Yes, the statistics, the majority, it's definitely super up there. But there is a lot of abuse, rape, assault within the LGBTQ community and even outside of it, and you are then totally just erasing all of that. You're erasing that story. By reading this article, I felt completely erased. You erased the fact that I went through all of this. You erased the majority of my life by just completely dismissing this guy's story because he's accusing a woman who identifies as lesbian and he's a man who identifies as gay. No, you don't get to do that until we have hardcore evidence against the hardcore evidence of emails of this woman sexually abusing this guy. We don't get to do that. I don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. This article, this journalist. Look, I have a journalism degree. This article feels super, super biased. And look, I get it. Whatever feelings you have are likely based off of your experiences. And if you identify as female, and if you especially were raised as female, I do hear you. I do see you. Your experiences, your feelings are so valid. But that does not mean that this guy's experiences and feelings are not valid. Just because he is a gay man does not mean that he could not be abused and sexually assaulted by a lesbian-identified woman. It's just, it doesn't matter. Let's look back at history. We have so many stories and evidence told from the dawn of time of sexual abuse between professors and students, teachers and students of all ages, of all genders. This is not new. But what is new is the Me Too movement. The hashtag Me Too movement is the most powerful movement in my lifetime so far, and possibly ever. I don't know. I wasn't alive for everything else. I can only read about it and hear other stories as to the fights prior. Fighting for women, fighting for equality, fighting for victims to be heard, to be validated. But hashtag Me Too isn't out there to hurt victims. It's out there to bring these stories to light and to empower them. This is a victim. This is someone who's coming out and saying, I got hurt too. And at the bottom of the article, it points out that this guy actually started to press for this story and these charges. All of this started to happen prior to the hashtag Me Too movement. So it's not like he even took the hashtag Me Too movement and said, oh, this is a movement clearly, primarily for women, made by women, and so therefore I'm just going to take over and tell my story. It's the perfect moment. No, that's not what happened. He even says that he wasn't trying to put himself into the space of taking over the Me Too movement. He wasn't about the Me Too movement. We need to separate these issues. We need to take apart these issues and tease them and not just put them purely based on sex and gender. It goes so much deeper than that. So much deeper. Abuse goes deep across everyone. Abuse goes deep within the LGBTQ community. Just because I'm a queer trans man doesn't mean that my story isn't valid. Doesn't mean that this guy's story isn't valid. But again, I don't have the full details of this story. What I have is my experiences, my feelings in this article. But what I do know is that taking this story and automatically denying it automatically rejecting who this person is and their story is wrong. Rejecting their story based on the fact that they are male is wrong. Rejecting their story based on the fact that they are a gay man and a lesbian identified woman is the person that they are saying violated them. It's wrong. It's wrong. We can't just take our anger and misplace it. We can't generalize to the extent that it is so easy to do. There's so much more to this story. There's so much more to our identities. Don't go and just reject something based off of an article, based off of a history of white male privilege and white men doing a lot of the abusing, doing a lot of the rape and assault. I've had white, cis, straight men abuse me. I've also had white, queer women abuse me. That's where my abuse started. That's where my story started. It didn't start with me being male. If you had heard me a few years ago telling these stories, and I wasn't on hormone therapy, and I hadn't had these surgeries, and you were looking at me, and you were seeing a woman, would you deny my story? No, you wouldn't. We can't just deny someone their story just based on who they are socially. Let's go back to the fact that gender is socially constructed. I was given an identity at birth, and it was not correct. I have chosen to honor my authentic life, my soul. I've chosen life over death, over continued misery and abuse within myself to myself by coming out and being a queer trans man. Doesn't erase my story. We can't go and just take this entire story and run with it to fight against all men, to fight against all male feminists, to tear that structure apart. Why would we do that? Why would we not want straight cis men to be allies? Why would we not want them to be true feminists? Why would we not want them to stand up and create and open a platform for women to speak up about their abuse, about their rape, about the inequality of money, the injustice throughout their entire existence in every facet of their life? Why would we do that? We can't tear each other apart based on an authentic feeling we have within our soul. That's not right. There is no just good and just evil. Everyone has many different sides to their story. Everyone has many different parts of their personality. Please, please, please do not go and just see all of these male victims and dismiss them. Please listen to them. Please hold their stories and their hearts just as closely as you would anyone else's. Their story matters. They are victims. If you're not going to say to one victim who happens to be female that their story is bullshit, you can't start going and playing the blame game of others. Not every white guy is out there to harm the story of women. That's just not the case. I know that everything I just said is a lot. It's a lot to digest. I'm still digesting this story. I'm still digesting this article. This issue, these issues go way past this story and this article. They go way past me. And you can watch this and be mad at me, or fight against me, or just, dismiss this guy. You can dismiss my story. But why are you really doing that? Are you doing it because you really don't think it happened? Or because you're concerned that my story is going to impact the greater movement and story? I think we need to dig deeper. I need to dig deeper. And I intend to dig deeper. I intend to stand up for anyone who cannot stand up for themselves, who deserves to be within this Me Too movement, who deserves to be heard, who deserves to be validated, who deserves to have their story count for something towards this movement, this history. This is a person with feelings and experiences, and they are going to be going on and passing around these experiences. They're, by just going through life, bringing this energy and this experience with them. I just think we need to open ourselves up more. We need to just open ourselves up without going anger first. It's so easy. It's so easy for me to go anger first. I've spent so many years angry, so many years upset, so many years torn down. I don't want to do it anymore. And it's going to take a lot of healing. But I know that my healing does not begin with tearing down this guy. It doesn't. I don't heal at the beginning of tearing down another victim. I heal by joining with other victims, by helping their voices be heard, by having their voices heard by mine, by standing together and promising that we are going to do everything to hear everyone else's stories, take all of these stories to light, and get real justice so that way all victims can be heard, so that all victims can be validated, so that one day we don't need to have this discussion anymore, so that one day, hopefully, we don't have a generation of women of any identity being victimized sexually, physically, and emotionally. This is just the beginning of this conversation. It's been months, but it's just the beginning. If you've watched all 18 plus minutes of this, if you've heard me out, if you haven't automatically just dismissed me and other victims who happen to be male, I thank you, I appreciate you, I see you. And if you're not ready to do that, if you're a victim and you're just not ready to see that other side of the coin, that's okay too. I need to put this out there because I read this article and I hear the story of a victim. I'm a victim, and I'm going to hear other victims out. I'm going to validate other victims because hating on a victim and telling them how their story is does not fix society. It does not fix and fight against this patriarchy. It does not heal. I'm not healed. It's time that we really, really dig down deep and listen to everyone who's a victim. Together, victims and allies can work on changing this world, changing the story, changing the narrative. We have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere, and this is me starting. So this is me taking one step forward, and at this point, you have the opportunity to take a step forward. It's up to you whether you actually take that step or not, but I hope that you will, and if you do, I'll see you there.